Oh, yeah. Well, welcome to the shack. For the GTF show. Gabriel Talks Football. A football mind is what you'll find. Gabriel Talks Football. Oh, the GTF show. Breaking down the bears like no one around. He's Greg Gabriel. He lives in GTO.
Welcome everyone to a fresh brand new episode of GTF Gabriel Talks Football. My name is Aldo Gandia and I got to get through this formality. If you are on Facebook, register at streamyard.com/Facebook, and that way when you leave a comment, we'll be able to see it here among everyone in the chat. People can argue with you, people can tell you to go F off, people can say great comment. But I'm pretty sure Greg will just mock what you said and I'll laugh at it. If you're watching on YouTube, what you can do to really help us out is to give us a like, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. You'll get updates whenever we're live, and share it with your fellow Bears fans. That's all I ask. It's not that big of a deal. So with that, let me welcome in the guy you all came to see. His name is Greg Gabriel. Greg, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Good morning.
Excellent.
Almost afternoon. Oh, it's only 11:05. Still morning, another hour.
Still morning, here in Chicago at least. How was your weekend?
Good.
Greg, we got a really tough discussion today, but we're going to start with some good news because you reposted this, and it was an alert for me that your buddy, Ron Rivera, has been inducted into the Hispanic Football Hall of Fame class for 2026. You got a good Ron Rivera story for us?
Ron's just an all-around classy guy. And before he got hired in Carolina, Marty Herney was the GM, and Marty called me and he goes, what can you tell me? Because I've known Marty for years. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I had stories. I said, there's one thing that just, from when I first started working with Ron as far as like on field, I said it was like the second day of camp down at Bourbonnais, maybe the third day. And he didn't like the way the defense was practicing. So he stopped the practice, gathered them all up, read them the riot act. And then like everything changed and it was going forward from that point on. And I said, to me, that showed just outstanding leadership and that he was running the defense and you were doing it his way.
Mm-hmm. That is sensational. The other thing is I didn't know there was a Hispanic Pro Football Hall of Fame. I think this might be the first year, just judging by who they're inducting this season. You got Tom Fierce, Tom Flores, Ted Hendricks. I didn't know he has Hispanic heritage. Anthony Munoz, Jim Plunkett, of course, Rivera, and Steve Van Buren. That's quite the class there. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. He used to do a thing here when he was coaching here that I played in it a couple years. I don't remember what it was called, but it was an Hispanic golf outing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hispanic businessmen and stuff like that. But it was, and then, people from the organization would play with each foursome or threesome or whatever. And it was a lot of fun. Played at that, where that Marriott golf course is on Lake Cook.
Yeah, I know it well.
Okay. Played there. The 2 times I played in the tournament, that's where it was at.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to get back out there and golf, but I don't know if I can golf anymore with this stroke shit. I probably can play miniature golf.
How you feeling, by the way? How's your hand doing?
I feel good. You know what? The last 6-7 days, I have felt great. My grip is, not 100%, but I can swing a golf club. That was part of my rehab. They said, "What would you like to do?" And I go, "Play golf." When they took me outside, they had some clubs at the rehab place, and I was swinging the golf club. Not too bad.
Good for you.
So we'll go whack some bucket of balls soon. All right, let us get to the topic at hand. Last week, if you missed our show, you really need to go back and check it out because Greg dissected the offensive roster. There really haven't been much in terms of changes with the roster, so that show is still...
No, it signed Scotty Miller over the weekend, but it's funny. Drew Rosenhaus, the agent, announced it, but the Bears haven't announced it yet.
Yeah, they still haven't. Interesting. But if it comes from Drew, it's a done deal.
Oh,
right?
no, it's a done deal. What the contract literally has to be signed, and they send it in. Sometimes they wait a day or something like that because they want to, in this case, they won't have to clear up any money, I don't think, but because they have $11-12 million in cap space. But there's some things sometimes you just sit on the contract for a day or two. But I thought because today was, the veterans are working today, that they'd announce it today. And maybe they will before the day's out. In fact, the veterans and the rookies are working today for the first time together.
So the veterans arrived over the weekend and they'll start working out today? Is that the plan? Do you know?
Well, no, they've been here for what, 3 weeks. And last week was the first week they could go outside, which is phase 2. But you can't go offense against defense. You got offense together, defense together. You're running pass routes on air, working. It's all individual. It's not until OTAs and mini camp that they can go offense against defense. Now, there's one thing, and I don't have the answer to it. I noticed when they put out their schedule for OTAs, there's 6 OTA practices and then the mini camp. There's like 3 OTA practices that aren't there. It's supposed to be 9. And I wonder if there was some change, but I looked at a bunch of other teams and they had 9, and I'm wondering why they cut out the 3.
Yeah, that's weird. I'll have to do some research on that as well.
Yeah, I'll send Biggsy a text. He's always got the answer with that stuff.
He has. We should see if we can get Biggsy on sometime this summer before camp opens. All right, let me ask you a question, Greg. The Bears defense in 2025, and we're going to go position group by position group and examine this roster, but how would you grade or characterize the Bears 2025 defense? Because I've got some analytics here that make them look pretty bad.
I was going to say CC minus.
Okay. All right.
Now, the turnovers kept you in games, and a lot of times they're at opportune times.
Indeed.
That was the positive part. But reality is, and this goes back to what Pohl said at the end of the year, at the end of the year presser, so right in January. He said, I knew this was going to take a couple years. He goes, because I had to retool the offense, retool the defense. And I took care of the offense last year. We just roughly touched the defense. And he goes, I knew it would take another year to get the kind of players. He's, because he had mentioned, he goes, they, put together the profiles at every position, what they wanted, and it's not what we had. And so, they're playing with a hodgepodge group of players as far as fits. And, the guys that didn't fit aren't here anymore.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so, and, like Byram, they said at first they said, well, we'd like Byram back. Well, I don't think they knew like a Kobe Bryant was going to be on the market
Mm-hmm.
because he was, DA wants these athletic guys on the back end that are interchangeable, that can play man coverage and can obviously run. And Brisker could run, but he couldn't play man. He zone guy, in the box guy. If you're going to draft a guy to replace Brisker to play what Brisker does, then you would have taken the Toledo kid.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't want that. They wanted like Thieneman, like they got, and Thieneman is like Kobe Bryant. So they took care of that. Everybody they got on all the new faces on the defensive line have a common denominator. They're athletic and they can run, including the draft choices. People kept saying, well, no, they're going to get, naming all these big elephants that they should be drafted. And remember, we kept saying they aren't drafting those guys.
Right.
And, that's not what he's looking for. And I tell you the truth, I still don't think people believe it. Like last week, there was a thing. Oh, DJ Reader, which he finally signed with the Giants. He's rumored to be coming here. And I just laughed. No, he's not. He's that like if they wanted a DJ Reader, they would have kept Billings.
Right. Right.
And it's not that Billings isn't a good player. He's not a fit. And then you go back to, again, the might have been the combine interview with Poles, where he said, everything we saw, and the coaches said the same thing. We didn't have enough speed on defense to do the things we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the whole, between free agency and the draft, it was improve the speed on the defensive side of the ball.
But I got to tell you, Greg, I am a little bit worried that the approach that they're taking with the defensive line, which is concentrating on speed and quickness there, as opposed to drafting a guy like a Caden McDonald, the big ass run stuffing defensive lineman who everybody
He can't run. But
yeah, but here's the problem. Let me continue here with this thought. The Bears' run defense last year, total rushing yards allowed in the league, they were 6th. Yards per carry, 5.0, they were 4th. The Bears gave up 150 plus rushing yards in 7 of the 17 regular season games. Too many yards, too many big plays. How did they correct that problem? By getting smaller defensive linemen who are faster.
Okay, let me answer.
Sure.
They aren't smaller. They're actually bigger, except for Billings.
Okay.
These guys, they signed some big guys like Gallimore. Gallimore is going to play it between 315 and 320.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Vandenberg, when he was doing his presser the other day, said he's 315 right now. Contavious Street is about 311. These aren't small guys.
Right.
Gervon Dexter's 320. It's getting the guys, what I do is when the coaches talk, first of all, they're very, very transparent, and they don't try to BS you. And if you really listen, you understand exactly what they're saying. And he was just saying, like DA last week when he did his presser, it was like 13, 14 minutes long. So he had a lot of time. And he said, we spent so much time installing because it was new to everybody that we didn't spend enough time, and I'm paraphrasing here, didn't spend enough time helping them play it the right way. Plus, he didn't have the right people to do that. So that's what the emphasis is now, is the scheme's been installed. And now it's getting the players to understand how to play it the right way, use the right techniques, etc. But I think, if you use, like to say, Gallimore can't play the nose and stop the run. Well, that's what he does. And he's pretty damn good at it. So I'm not buying into that, because I do. And you can look at Seattle. Seattle just won a Super Bowl. They didn't have a huge defensive line.
Right. Yeah, that seems to be the era that we're going into.
Well, New England played in a Super Bowl. They didn't have a huge defensive line. It just depends on what you're asking your players to do. And you can't just, I got to have a big plugger. Well, fine. If your scheme calls for a big plugger, get one. But that's not how he wants to play the scheme. Now, if it doesn't work, who's it on? It's on him. He's developed a scheme.
Right. And that is something that he was accountable for in that press conference that you mentioned. He talked about he was too focused on the scheme. And it's interesting that somebody on X sent me a message saying, the Bears talk too much scheme. They need to, talk more about other things. And he was referring to Dennis Allen and some of the analysts. But I want to play this for you. It's 1.5 minutes long. This is Dennis Allen talking about improvement for the defense.
When you look at things, the first thing you have to look at is, okay, what could I have done better? And then what could we have, as a staff, have done better? And we had a lot of discussions, this offseason about a lot of different things. And one of the things that we identified was, we focused so much on installing all the scheme last year, because it was brand new. And we do have a high volume of things that we carry in the defense. And we focused so much on that we lost sight of some of the fundamentals and techniques that it takes to function, to do those things. And I don't think we were as fundamentally sound defensively as we need to be. So how do we have to coach it better? Well, let's minimize how much we're focused on the scheme, okay? And let's focus on not what we're going to do, but how we're going to do it. And I think that's how we're going to improve. And you look across the board at all three levels of the defense, and I just feel like you go in and you watch it, and in some ways you're disappointed because it doesn't look exactly like you want it to look, but you're also really encouraged because if we can get better at those fundamentals and techniques on all three levels of our defense, how much can we really improve?
I mean, that's a compelling argument. I am heartened by what he is saying there, because I think you can return with many of the same players, but figure out a way to get better performances out of them. And talking about technique and basics and so forth is the first step.
Okay, let's be fair. It's not. Let's start with the defensive line. It's not the same players. You got 4 new defensive tackles. Grady Jarrett and Gervon Dexter are the holdovers. Three signed as free agents, and then you drafted Jordan Vanderberg. Okay, last year, the first half of the season, you didn't have Booker. You had Deo, and then Deo got hurt. So they never played together. I think they played one game together. And that was it. The first game, Booker came back, Deo got hurt. Now, Deo has always been, all year, has been the designated whipping boy for a lot of the fans. And I've been standing up for him, and only because the head coach stood up for him several times. And then in that same press conference where you just played some clips, DA did the same thing.
Yep.
He said he kept getting better week after week after week, and he's doing just what we want him to do when he gets hurt. So it's and he played the different type scheme in Indianapolis for his whole career up to that point. So I'm going with what they say, and the reason being, okay, Shamar Turner, you only got a half a season out of him, so you got Dale coming back, Shamar Turner coming back, 4 new defensive tackles. That's 6 players on your defensive line right there.
Right.
That really weren't there. So people, well, we didn't go out and get a pass rusher. Well, that's why you have coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get what they're saying. And I think, could they go out and get another guy between now and camp? Yeah. Will they? I don't know. I think they want to be fair with the group they have and say, let's see what they're doing over the next month in the off-season program and then make a decision. Somebody asked him about his player from New Orleans. And
Cameron Jordan.
Yeah. And he goes, hey, he was great when he was with me, but he's not what we're thinking about right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean he's not going to be what they're thinking about a month from now, but it's, they've got their mind set up, and I'm good with that. And I don't care if other fans aren't, because they're not in the building working with these guys every day. Have you seen the difference in the body of Booker?
Yeah.
I mean, somebody said 15 pounds, even 15 pounds, but I guarantee you put him in the bod pod, he's probably about 8% body fat. Where you see it? You see it up in here, see it in his neck, you see it in his shoulders. He's probably 255, which is fine. That's all he has to be at that height. But that's how big Max Crosby is.
Mm-hmm.
He's only 255 pounds. And I'm not comparing him to Max Crosby. He had to get stronger. And he looks a lot stronger. He looks bigger. And if you watch the way he played last year, I mean, there's plays when he was flat out outstanding. And he plays the run a lot better than people give him the credit for, even when he was playing with, not being as strong or as stout as you'd like him to be at that point. I'd be surprised if he's not 9 to 11 sacks this year.
I am praying for double-digit sacks. I think he's headed there. I mean, how many sacks did he have last year? You just said
he had 4.5, and then 3 called back because of penalties.
Okay, and
he only played a half a season.
Right. Well, the Bears' pass rush definitely needs help because they were bad last year. 4,067 passing yards allowed. 66.6% completion rate. That's in the bottom third. It was putrid. And so
part of that's the secondary. Part of that's the secondary.
Big time, of course. Absolutely.
And again, not enough speed on the back end, meaning the safety position, or being able to do what they want to do. How many times did we see in coverage CJ Gardner-Webb get killed in man coverage, Brisker get killed in man coverage, Edwards get killed in man coverage, big plays giving up because they didn't have guys who could do it right. And so they went out to try to fix that. What a lot of the fans want to know, if the guy's not a superstar by name, then they fucked up. They didn't get the right players. But that's not how it works.
Right. You can't load up a team with 22 Pro Bowlers starting. No team in the NFL has that. The closest you can get is getting guys who are good and developing them to be better. And I think that's what the Bears are counting on based on what they're saying to the media. Let's start the dissection here. Let's go with the interior defensive line first. We've got Dexter, we've got Jarrett, Gallimore, Street. Gallimore and Street are the 2 big defensive tackle free agent signings. Jordan Vandenberg, people are asking have you been able to study his tape, and what are you seeing? And then there's Lynch and Loving. But go ahead and just take it away from here. What do you want to discuss regarding these interior
Vandenberg,
defense?
we talked about, last week. And I said it was my bad that we didn't bring him up that Saturday morning going into day 3, because I had written him up 3 separate times for agents during the course of the summer before and then last fall. And I had pretty much the right. My main concern was the last time I wrote him was after 5 games. And at that point, he was, the motor that you see was great. The defense, the run was great. What you didn't see was a good pass rush. And then in the final 6 games, he had 3 sacks, and he had another one that was close to a sack. It ended up being an intentional grounding because the guy's knee hadn't touched the ground yet. And it's, what jumps out though is that where he's still got to use his hands a little bit better, and that's coaching. He comes out low and he's so damn strong. I mean, just a powerful guy. And he's came from South Africa, started playing football, I think, in 10th grade. He's still a puppy.
Yep.
But he's got that want to. And to me, that's important. I still think that, and I guarantee I'm throwing a dart at the wall here, I think Gervon Dexter's in trouble. And he's in trouble because he gets off the ball too damn slow, and he stands straight up. And it's been 3 years. So, and he's out of contract at the end of this year. He's got to really have a strong camp, or I think he won't be a Bear at the end of camp.
I disagree with you, Greg. Here's why. He had 6 sacks last year. Now,
Yep.
I'm not scouting by statistics, but I see a lot of promise in this guy. He is going into his 4th season?
4th year.
And I think all of this stuff that Dennis Allen is preaching about better coaching, that applies first and foremost to Gervon Dexter. Like you just said, he gets stood up. He's slow off the snap.
He doesn't
and
get
so
stood
forth.
off. Well, it's very slow, but he's been slow off the ball even in college.
Yes.
So
a lot of that was the scheme, right? Wasn't it the scheme?
No, the scheme wasn't get off the snap reaction is snap reaction.
Yeah,
but if you go back and you look at his college tape, he played a different kind of scheme in that he was a read and react. So he'd be at the line of scrimmage and reading and then go to the play and he'd hold up blockers. He wasn't asked to attack. He was a 2-gap guy. But he was consistently the last guy off the ball when the ball got snapped. He still is.
So you don't think that can be coached correctly?
I think, it's his 4th year. How long does it take?
Dennis Allen.
I know, but
Dennis Allen just admitted that they weren't focused on those things, that they were worried more.
Yeah, but to me, that's grade school shit. I mean, he's playing the 1 technique. Now they don't have him on the 3. Sometimes he's at the 3. The ball's right next to him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Isn't it? I mean, if you're playing the 1 tech, the ball's this far away.
Right.
Get off the frickin' ball.
Yeah, I don't know. You know more about the game than I do. I just have a feeling that he's going to benefit more from this coaching adjustment where they're going to focus on those things.
Raw talent, I agree it's there. But what I'm saying is now it's been 3 years and we've seen, and yeah, he's got like twice he has like 4.5 to 6 sacks or something like that. That's a good number, but he doesn't play the run worth a shit. He's terrible against the run. And the only guy who could play the run good last year on the interior was Billings. And they wanted him gone because he couldn't run. He couldn't pursue. He couldn't do what, so they got Gallimore, who's a little bit smaller, but he's, plays between 315 and 320. But he penetrates better and he can run. He was a 4.75 guy coming out of college.
Do you agree with this chat comment? He was drafted for Flus's scheme, which was attacking as well. He's been trying to do it for years.
Yeah, I mean,
you think he's in the wrong scheme?
Hey, there's something missing. I don't know what it is. We're not around them every day. But you froze up for a second. Now you're okay. Um, it's I'm more down on him than most people are down on Dale, because you never hear the coaches say anything about Dexter, good or bad. They only say good things about Dale, and it's to a man with the coaching staff. And they know that he's the designated whipping boy by a lot of the fans, because the fans just look at it in one area: sacks.
Yeah, but you gotta admit, Dale played 8 games last season.
Got hurt in the 8th game.
Yeah, those first few games, he was putrid. Let's listen to Dennis Allen talk about Dale. I pulled that clip that you referred to.
Well, look, he's definitely in the mix at defensive end, and if you go back and you watch the tape and you watch his improvement from week 1, all right, till the time that he got hurt in the Cincinnati game, you saw a lot of improvement, all right, and that's one of the things when we talk about the pass rush. Okay, one of the things that we've talked about, it gets back to the fundamentals, all right, and how we teach those things. We lost some of that because we were so focused on the scheme, and that totally falls on me. And so I think if we do a better job of the fundamentals and the techniques of doing those things that we're going to ask them to do, that we'll get better at that. And I think we'll see, our pass rush improve in terms of just our guys rushing as one unit. All right, because it's hard. There was a lot of times where we had a really good rush, okay, but we weren't quite as good over here on this side, and so it allowed the quarterback, to step up into a lane. And so that's an area that we can improve on. And I think our guys, when they did it right, it was pretty impressive.
I can't argue with a thing he says, because it's when you understand what he's trying to say, it's like there's times it was really good, but it was good on one side, but not good on the other side. That's playing together.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And there were times we see it. I could count probably a dozen almost sacks and if you had a little better push from the other side, they wouldn't have been almost. They would have been sacks. Yeah. So it was getting everybody to play together. Now go back to Dale. I think his best year in Indy was 7.5, and he played. He was outside on base downs, inside on pass downs. When you get him back to 7.5, he's fine. And. I'm not gonna. Again, he got hurt. Everybody was new. I'm just going with what the coaches say. I believe Dennis Allen has a huge reputation in the league. His defenses have always been good. You gotta, you can't put a chef in a new restaurant and not give him the ingredients to cook. Mm-hmm. And he didn't have any ingredients last year. They went out and they tried to get him the right ingredients during the off season. And now it's like, okay, now we got to see the big improvement this year. And, I'm not going to say, well, they didn't do this and they didn't do that. No, I'm going to sit back and watch, because it's not that I'm being homeboy. I'm just, I get what he's saying, because I've been in meetings like that where they talk, this is what we got to do. This guy can do this. So, and it's not just, oh, he sucked, you got to get rid of him. That's not the way you do things. Right. There's a reason why you went out and got him. Now get him to play the way you wanted him to play.
Well, let's go on then and talk about, before we get outside and talk more specifically about the edge rushers, anything else you want to say about these interior defensive linemen, and in particular, Gallimore and Street, two guys that I hold out a lot of promise for, but these guys are depth players. There's no way they're going to perform anywhere near what you want out of a defensive tackle, which is what
That's
I
your
think.
opinion.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, now
are
if
you,
you watch,
are
if you
you,
watch,
are you
if
telling
you
me
watch,
that Gallimore and Street are going to perform?
Gallimore was a starter for Indianapolis defense, which was pretty damn good last year.
Yeah, but what about the performance?
What do you mean? What about the performance?
It wasn't Pro Bowl or star
Well,
level.
you don't have to
Nowhere
have
near it.
all Pro Bowl guys. Come on, that's unrealistic.
I just said that it was
Good
unrealistic.
You got to have sound football players that can play within your scheme. He's strong. What's they say? One of the best things he does is he's got an all-out motor, snap to whistle every single play. He gets penetration all the time. He's strong. He can occupy blockers when you want him to occupy blockers. So, the guy's got a lot of tools to work with. He was a good player at Indy last year. They couldn't really afford to keep him. They had to pay a quarterback. They had to pay a wide receiver. I think there's 3 people they had to pay. They couldn't pay everybody.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Ballard flat out told me to sign him. He said, I didn't want to lose that guy.
Well, so are you telling me that you are happy with a rotation of Dexter, Jarrett, Gallimore, and Street?
Yeah.
And throw in Turner and Vandenberg out there. You're happy with that rotation?
I don't know. Take that back. I don't think Dexter's going to be on the team. Okay, and I've
Really?
been saying it. I do not think he will be on the team game 1.
Wow. They're not going to waive him.
What?
They're not going to waive him. So you're saying they're going to trade him?
Yeah. I just don't think, unless he really does an about face in camp, I don't think he'll be here.
I don't see how you can trade away a 6-sack player. I don't care
because he doesn't play the way you want the game being played.
Well, you're still going to have on your roster guys who are not perfect fits, but they're the best thing that you got.
That's why he went out and signed 3 guys in free agency and drafted a guy that were all perfect fits.
Okay, so are you telling me that these guys, Gallimore, Street, Vandenberg, and potentially Turner, are as good or better than Dexter?
Where do you? Oh no, Shamar Turner's going to be playing outside.
Okay, so let's just say Gallimore, Street, and Vandenberg. You're saying that they can play as good or better than Dexter this season?
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
I am down on Gervon Dexter. Gervon Dexter, I do not think can play the scheme the way they want the scheme being played. Does he have the talent to play it the way they want? Yes. But now it's his 4th freaking year, and in 3 years, it hasn't changed.
I don't know. I don't know. I hope you're wrong. I hope that Gervon plays.
Hey, you know what? I hope I'm wrong too. But it's like, okay, I've been waiting. Mm-hmm. He has the big off season. He looks great. Doesn't play great. Yeah, he gets some sacks. Doesn't play the whole game. He doesn't play good.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the outside, the edge position, and that's where we have Booker, Sweat, Odengbo, Hardy, Garvin, Jamar Crome, Martin, and of course Shamar Turner. I on paper, I like what I am seeing here. This isn't as bad as the interior position where I'm a little bit more concerned. Your thoughts?
I think they need one more.
Okay.
But, Hardy is, they're not playing Hardy. He's a special teamer.
Right.
Okay, if they wanted to play him, because he can rush the passer, he can run, but he's a liability against the run.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that the DA wants to play the game. And in fact, they moved him to linebacker last year, and he did get snaps at linebacker as a Sam linebacker. So, in essence, you got Booker, Sweat, Deo, and Shamar Turner, and the rest is names.
Mhm. Okay.
So I think you could use and Deo is a inside outside guy. Shamar can be an inside outside guy. I think they need one more outside guy myself. And whether they go out and do it, that remains to be seen. Like I said just a little bit ago, I think that they're trying to see what these guys do during the off-season program. And granted, they're not going well. The once they get into the OTAs, they're going against each other, but still, you can't do a lot. I mean, you're not going to see what you want to see. You're not going to see that until the pads come on. But they're going to have an idea of if they feel they still got to go out and get a guy. And there could be. There could be some people available at the right price. And the biggest name that sticks out is Thibodeau.
So, are you hearing anything, Greg?
No, I'm not. I mean, remember day 3 of the draft or day 2 of the draft, they said Giants are taking calls. Well, and New Orleans looks like it's going to make the deal. Well, New Orleans ended up, signing that or trading for that bust from the Raiders, who was a top 6 or top 7 draft pick, Wilson from Texas Tech.
Yeah. Yes, that's
and so the Giants say they want to keep him. Reality is he's in the last year of a contract. He's costing them $14.75 million because he's on a 5th-year deal. It's all guaranteed money, and he's probably the number 4 defensive end. So if you trade him, you got something. What do you have if you lose him in free agency? Maybe you get a comp. Depends what kind of contract he gets.
Right. Yeah, it's. Do you think it looks better for the Bears to acquire somebody like a Thibodeau?
I don't know that because they want to have that. It's they want to take on a $14.75 million contract.
Yeah.
Okay, and it could get down to. I mean, that could go all the way to a trade deadline thing. Move them at the trade deadline or shortly before. Who knows? I just think from a standpoint, knowing that he's number 4. Even though he was a top 5 pick, looking at they got Burns, they got Carter last year. They got 2 top 5. The last 2 drafts, they got 2 top 5 edge players.
Yeah.
Between Carter and Reese. So what are they going to do with all these guys?
Well, I mean, you can never have. The old saying is you can never have.
I get it, but
somebody go ahead.
Go ahead. What somebody wants.
Somebody is saying Burns doesn't have a lot of guaranteed money left.
Burns ain't going anywhere. He's their best defensive player.
What about? Let's see. Somebody brought up a really good point. I think it was Sophisticated Thought about Deo's Achilles, and that it could take a while before he's really 100%. What are your thoughts on
that? Having torn an Achilles myself and knowing the procedures now, it's a 8-month injury now. I mean, look at Tatum, the Celtics forward. He tore it in the playoffs, like the semifinal round of the playoffs last year, and was practicing in January. And then they put him in games in February, but he was ready to go before that. They were sitting good in the standings, so we don't need him right now. We want him. So, and he was fine. He was throwing in 28 to 30 a game. And that's putting more stress on than a defensive lineman, technically, because of all the change of direction you do. The Achilles injury 15 years ago was a bitch. Okay, it's not anymore, and it's because of the new. It's like the same thing we're talking about, with Ozzy and his torn patella tendon. These aren't as bad as they were years ago because
Right.
doctors have perfected ways. There's a new, what do they, forgot the name of it. Aaron Rodgers tears his Achilles in the opening game for the Jets. Remember that? 3 months later, he was practicing.
Yeah, but he wasn't pushing off or doing anything, like a defensive end.
It's only 3 months. 3 months later, he was practicing. They were talking about activating him. And then, the team sucked, so they said they didn't do it. It was 3 months.
Yeah. I don't believe anyone.
You know what?
I don't believe that he really was a viable candidate to play that season. I think that was Rodgers, bullshit talk. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but he wasn't saying it. The Jets were.
Yeah, well,
and there was video of him. There was video of him, doing stuff on the side because they never activated him. But they, it's one thing I follow closely is some of these surgical techniques because it's really important to know. And again, now you could have a terrible surgery. You could have a terrible surgeon. I don't know who did Dale's Achilles. Might have been the guy who did it the first time. Might have been the guy here, Dr. Kalikian, who has the connection. He's very good. We don't have the answer to that part, but there's guys that come back really fast from Achilles injuries now and are just as strong as ever. And part of the reason is the way they do it, and just try to explain, and I'm trying to use layman's terms here. What they used to do, you got it severed in half, right? And when you sever a tendon, it looks like a mop. Right. You just got these strands like this.
Spaghetti, right?
Yeah, right. And they used to trim off those strands, stretch the Achilles, and stitch it together.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do that anymore. They take the strands and weave them together like this, and then stitch through it. It improves the rehab time by months, and also makes for a stronger, number one, you're not having to stretch the remaining part of the tendon, but you end up having a stronger joint.
Okay. So you're optimistic about Dale's recovery and that we should see him
if they were giving you any cause for alarm, and they'd say that, hey, what tells you that they're optimistic is they didn't draft anybody at the position and they didn't sign anybody at the position.
Right.
So that tells you something right there.
Well, I mean, you're going to get some pushback on that. They didn't sign anybody at the position because they didn't want to spend the money or could not spend the money.
Yeah, they spend the money. The money's there.
How much money do they currently have in the cap?
$11 million, and there's 4 contracts you haven't even touched yet.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying they can create cap space.
They can create money. They can create $40 million like that.
Mm-hmm. But that, and I have this discussion with a lot of people. Doing that is basically putting it on a credit card because you got to pay the piper somewhere down the line. And if you're paying players who are no longer on the roster, that's in my opinion,
only one. I've said this
GMing.
1,000 times. The only way guys you want to do that to are guys that are going to be here for the long haul. Okay, so you're not going to do it to a guy that. Okay, Grady Jarrett. You're not going to do it to Grady Jarrett.
Right.
Okay, but you can do it to Sweat. You can do it to Jalen Johnson because those guys are, it looks as they're going to be here for the long haul for a while. So there you can, and you're not pushing out if you put void years on that's where it's the void years that kill you. Yeah. What you do is you just turn part of the salary into bonus money, and then the accounting of it changes as far as cap purposes. So if there's, if you give them, if you turn $10 million into bonus and there's 3 more years left on the contract, that adds $3 million a year to those last 3 years of the contract for cap purposes and lowers the number now, but it doesn't change how much money he's making. Now it's when you add void years, that's where people get in trouble, because the void years then thins out the cap number even more, but there's no contract for the void years. So now it comes at the end, the contract's up, or you get rid of the guy, bam, you get smacked with it. So you got to be careful.
Interest on the credit card.
Right. You got to be careful who you do it with. People say Cole Kmet's not going to be here. Well, I beg to differ. They just restructured his contract. That alone tells you he's going to be here
for 2026 and 2027. But beyond that, that's the question, right?
Well, I haven't looked at the contract to say that, but yeah, he's going to be here for a while.
Yeah, but I predict he's gone after 2027, and Sam Roush will be in his place, and we won't miss a beat. I love that selection of Sam Roush. But let's get back to the defense, and I want to talk about the linebackers now. They added a speedy linebacker in Devin Bush. Unfortunately, he has had some injury issues in the past, but was healthy last season and had an excellent season. DJ Edwards is probably going to start, and I'm concerned about his lack of speed. He's a good run defender.
I do not believe he's going to start.
So you think it'll be DeMarco Jackson in place of him?
Yep.
Okay. Tell me
why.
I think
you're stuck because of the contract. They extended him before they knew him last year.
Right.
Meaning this staff. And then if there's one area I think they made a mistake, he's a great guy. He got the Brian Piccolo Award. You love him in the locker room, but he really can't play the defense. So, because he can't cover. He can play the run really, really well. He can't cover. So, where Jackson came in, and Jackson might have been the best linebacker they had all last year. It was like, who is this guy? DA knew him, but he was actually a backup in New Orleans. But he played really well, and they gave him some money. But, they didn't overkill him with the money. They gave him good money. They got rid of Edmonds. Edmonds played really good first half of the season. After he got dinged up, missed 4 games, and then he came back. He didn't do anything. And I think they just thought, do $17 million. And if you're getting paid 17, you got to earn 17. You got to give him 17 back in production. Now, in this case with Edwards, you're in a position where you just can't cut him right now, and I think that's their fault. But I think he's a backup. I don't think he starts. Maybe he starts. I just think, people, every time you see him playing, the offenses try to expose him for what he can't do, and that's play in coverage.
Well, and
now, so he can play in the short zones. But when you see him, there's times you saw him in man coverage and he was getting beat by 7, 8, 9 yards because he can't run.
Right. So that begs the question, why did they sign Jack Sanborn, who is a very similar player to TJ Edwards? Yeah, has excellent instincts.
Money, and he's a special teamer.
Yeah. No, that's probably right there, is they really like his special teams play.
Right. But and there's no guarantee he's going to make the roster. They usually keep 5. There was times they had 6 last year, unless you want to call Hardy, he's a special team guy. He's not really a position player.
Right.
Keyshawn Elliott's going to be here. Jackson's going to be here. Edwards is going to be here. Bush is going to be here. Now you got one other one, and that is Sewell or Hippolyte, in my opinion. Okay, and then maybe Sanborn and Hardy fight it out for that special teams guy.
Okay. Greg, one of the things that I was thinking about, and I'd love for you to comment on, is Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen talked about the 12 personnel, 13 personnel trend in football. We're seeing much more of that. And so the remedy for that for some defensive coordinators is to play more of the base defense, 3 linebackers. And do you think that's what Dennis Allen will do, or do you think he will rely on the nickel coverage because Kyler Gordon is so good against the run?
I think that remains to be seen. You know, it's who you playing, and do they use? Okay, you got to break this down into not a broad term, but an individual thing. What teams that the Bears are playing utilize a lot of 13? And I don't have the answer to that right now. You'd have to go, look at every.
It's a great question.
But it's really the matchup. You could get into a situation, Aldo, where let's say you've got 6 linebackers on the team, but you're only dressing 5 on Sunday. But you're playing a team that plays a lot of 13. Well, if that's the case, then maybe you dress 6 that Sunday. It's how you utilize the personnel.
Gotcha. Well, it's going to be interesting to see with this emphasis now on 12 and 13 personnel, how the Bears defense is going to respond to that, and whether they have the personnel at the linebacker position to run 3 linebackers out there that they feel comfortable with.
Well, they got speed. There's no question they got speed, except for Edwards. All these guys can run.
Right.
Okay, so
Sanborn can, but you're right. Yes.
Right. I'm talking Sewell, Hippolyte. Hippolyte's a 4.40, 4.38 guy. Keyshawn Elliott was 4.57. DeMarco coming out was 4.56. Bush was like a low 4.4 guy. All these guys could run. TJ Edwards was 4.78. So they got the guys who have the athletic skill set to do what they want. Hippolyte started off real good in camp, and it, according to them, it's like he hit the, got onto overload, hit the rookie wall.
Right.
So now he's got to take the next step. I don't think Sewell's brother, how do you say his name, Nafai or
what and Sewell
Nafai or whatever. I don't think he's really in the picture, and the same with Dominique Hampton. I don't even know who Dominique Hampton is.
Some people in the chat think he's a year or two from maybe seeing some action. But here's a good question: do you think there's a chance that TJ Edwards does not make the roster?
I don't think they can afford to cut him right now
because of the hit.
Wait, I got over the cap here.
No, open up over the cap and
I got it open to the Bears right now. TJ Edwards. If they cut him right now, there's $12.9 million in dead money. Okay, so now if you trade him, that changes because the salary part, which is 8.25, comes back to them.
Gotcha.
So okay, now let's say you do post June 1st. Now that goes to post June 1st, it's $10 million. And it actually goes, I don't know how it goes up, but it's $10 million in dead money and a cap savings of only $250,000. What it gets down to, you can't get rid of them.
Yeah. I mean, you can, but it'll be a nasty.
No, if you were going to get rid of them, you try to trade them because then you're picking up the salary.
Right. Well, the other thing is he could mysteriously get hurt, right?
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
he could mysteriously get hurt, but you're still paying him.
he gets his full salary. Okay. How does the injury settlement, not to belabor this, but how does that work?
Well, if okay, if he's a vested vet,
Hmm.
if he's on the roster game one, his salary's guaranteed the rest of the year.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay, so the injury settlement thing, a lot of that stuff's with rookies.
Mm-hmm.
Because you got a free agent rookie, you got a low draft choice rookie, and you don't want him to, he's hurt, he's not going to make the team. So you just want him out so you have a roster spot. You can go out, bring somebody else in, and then you negotiate with the agent. You get the medical opinions, and and sometimes you got to get a second opinion in this like this. Doctors say, "Oh, it's a 5-week injury." Fine, they're going to pay him for 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's what your injury settlement is.
Gotcha. Well, we'll see what happens there. I'm a little bit worried about the linebacker position, and making things a little bit more worrisome to me is the fact that Bush, outside of his rookie season and last season, in between, he had 4 seasons where he wasn't on the field, and so
he was on the field before he was on the field. He has gotten injuries, there's no question. He looked like, I remember when he was a rookie in Pittsburgh, and he was like, wow, they stole this guy.
Yes, I remember that too.
He was a playmaking fool. Really good player at Michigan. So, you got to be, you can say you're worried, but you got to trust the people who are making the decision.
Yeah, right.
And, they do their research, and what were the injuries? Were they freak injuries? Did he have to have a bunch of surgeries? All that stuff plays into it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can't avoid injury. An injury is going to happen, and you got to work your way through it. But all this work is done by your pro department. During the course of the season and the weeks leading up to free agency when they make these decisions.
I agree. King Booker World is leading the chorus in the chat regarding DeMarco Jackson, who played for an injured Tremaine Edmonds and probably played as well or better than him.
I said a little while ago, he might have been the best linebacker they had last year.
Yeah.
And that was a pleasant surprise. And they turned around. I'll tell you what they gave him.
And he truly is a Dennis Allen player because he's played for Dennis Allen in the past.
Right. DeMarco Jackson. Okay, his cap number is $3,047,500 for this year.
That's a deal.
But he was getting nothing before. So he played really good. And when he goes in, you're going, who's this guy?
Mm-hmm.
And then he's making plays all over. He got a game ball one week.
Yes, he did.
So and part of it was he's one of the few guys that knew the scheme. He's already been playing in it.
Exactly.
His whole career. So he's very athletic. He can cover. He can blitz. He can play the run. He can run. He does everything that you want. Now, can you use TJ on some base downs, like 1st and 10, and then get him out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if I'm seeing that a lot, if I'm the opponent, I'm going, good, 1st and 10, I'm throwing, and I'm making sure he's the guy in coverage. You're gonna set up a situation where you're forcing him to cover.
Yep, exactly. It's going to be a chess game. There's no doubt. Let's move to the cornerback position. I love this room. I think it could be an incredible room with Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson as your 3 starters there when you're playing nickel, and then Malik Muhammad. I have a lot of high expectations for him. Then you get guys coming back who are promising sub players. Jalen Jones, Terrell Smith. Those types of players help round
Charles
out.
Smith has started some games. He's been killed with the injury bug.
Yes, he has.
And
Exactly.
he's supposed to be good. I haven't heard any. I mean, I know his agent really well. And this goes back a few weeks. He said, he should be taking part in OTAs. We'll find out when OTAs start if he's actually taking part.
Yeah.
You got Dante Manning in there twice.
I do. You're right. Sorry about that.
Josh Blackwell, is really a special teams guy, but he can play the nickel. Do you got who's the guy they brought in from Buffalo? Do you got his name in here? Or do you got him in the safeties?
I probably have him in the safeties.
Yeah, he's a corner. He's a nickel. Okay. Now he has played safety, but he's 5'10", and so
Cam Lewis. Are you talking Cam Lewis?
Cam Lewis.
He's number 11 in this list. Yeah.
Oh, there he is, Cameron Lewis. He is your backup to Kyler Gordon, but he's like CJ was last year, and he can also be a backup, an emergency safety. I think he started 4 or 5 games at safety for Buffalo over the last couple of years. And he's going to hold. Yeah, he can hold the fort for it. He's not what you want size-wise, but he can keep you in a game. As far as safety position, he's a pretty good nickel guy. And I think, CJ got exposed in coverage real bad. He made some big plays when we first got him.
Yep. And
then he got exposed when he had to play in man coverage a couple of times, and he just couldn't do it. So this is, if Kyler goes down, they got a pretty good player in Cam Lewis to step in. Now, it was interesting, if you listen to Malik Muhammad's even just Malik Muhammad presser, he was saying they were playing him at nickel and regular just during the mini camp because they want him to learn both. And if they're doing that, that tells you they think a lot of his intelligence, that they're not trying to overload him because they think he can do both. But, I think he's an outside guy first. There's been a couple articles. There's another one today, veterans who could be on the out because of rookies. And they say Tyreek Stevenson because of this guy. I don't believe that. And one of the reasons being is I don't think they want to start 2 rookies in the defensive backfield.
Yeah.
Because Thieneman's starting. Absolutely. And so, if this guy is your third corner and Terrell Smith is your fourth corner and Jalen Jones is your fifth corner and Blackwell is your sixth corner, you got a pretty good room.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. All right, well, let's move to that all-important safety position. And I put together this graphic. You've talked about it a million times, Greg. This is what Dennis Allen is looking for: position flexibility, guys that can align high or low. They can rotate post-snap. They disguise their coverage shells, and they communicate. Allen really, really stressed that they have to be smart communicators back there, and they want to create confusion with their safeties, and this is the roster right now. The rookie, you've watched a little bit more tape, I assume, on Dylan. What is your kind of updated scouting report on Dylan Thieneman?
I mean, he was the perfect fit in this draft.
Yeah.
In fact, you can say, well, the Ohio State guy, he's a top 10 guy. The Ohio State guy really was a nickel. And I'm not telling you, and a very aggressive nickel. And I'm not saying this guy's better because he's good in his own right. But what Thieneman did, if you watch him at Purdue, he was a single high safety a lot. Showed a lot of range. sideline to sideline. Wasn't asked to do as much man coverage as he was at Oregon. Now he goes to Oregon, entirely different scheme.
Mm-hmm.
And he's almost like, if you want to say a joker or a monster, that was him, because he was playing nickel, he was playing deep, just being moved around, even like a linebacker. And he showed, put him in man coverage. He could cover wide receivers pretty darn well. He could play the deep. He already showed he could play deep single free when he was at Purdue. I mean, he's a 4.35 guy. He's got range up the yin yang, but on top of that, he'll knock your dick off too. So
Yeah.
the guy can hit. So I think he was a perfect fit. We talked about this before when it got to around 20 and he was there. I tweeted out because I had no idea this guy was going to be there. I thought he'd go in with teens. I thought, is he going to be there? And I was just thinking, because that's the only guy I would have, if he wasn't there, I'd trade down. And if you look at the draft, 5 out of the last 7 picks in the first round were traded this year. Buffalo and Seattle were the only ones, or not Buffalo, Chicago and Seattle were the only ones that stayed and took a pick. And Chicago stayed because Thieneman was there. So there were trades there. You knew they were there because all those other picks were traded. So I think he's a hell of a pick. I think he's going to be a big playmaker right from the beginning. Could even be one of the better defensive safeties in the line for rookie of the year type thing, that he's going to make that much of a difference. Very smart, very instinctive, very aggressive, only lives a couple hours away.
I know that I must have left somebody out of this list because I got 6 guys, and one of them includes Cam Lewis. So there's probably a name or two that I've missed, but we've got Kobe Bryant.
I got their roster here somewhere. Let me.
Cool. So Elijah Hicks is back. He was re-signed. Skylar Thomas.
You got Skylar Thomas in there, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. He's a pretty good player, but he can't run. I mean, he put it this way: he didn't run on his pro day. You're gonna you want 4, and Cam Lewis is a guy you can play both.
Right.
They brought back Elijah Hicks, so right now I would say your 4th. Your 4th is Skylar Thomas, and your 5th is Cam Lewis, unless you want to call it Cam Lewis your 4th, because he's your backup nickel.
Yeah. Well,
Skylar Thomas's game is like the kid from Toledo. He can play up, close, he can play zone, plays faster than he times, and he really hits.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised though if they brought in another safety to compete, just based on those names on that list. Do you know anything at all about this kid Jervius Owens?
No,
Jervius Owens, because he's on that list of safeties too.
Don't know. I'm sorry, and I think they have. I counted the other day. I think after the wide receiver, they're at 88, and they might be 89. I think they got a couple spots still for the 90-man roster.
Yeah. Well, that leads to this question from Chief Latero. Greg, what is your overall assessment of the team going into training camp and then OTAs later? Do you like? We've gone through the offense and defensive roster. Do you like where this team is from a roster standpoint?
Yeah, I'm excited about this team.
Yeah,
so, I think I like the defensive roster a lot better than a lot of fans do.
Okay, and you have said that you would like to see.
I've done a lot of tape work on these guys. I know what kind of players they are. I like everybody. There is a concern outside at the edge. I think Booker's going to take a jump. The guy I'm really excited about to see what he does is Shamar Turner.
Shamar Turner is a big ingredient to this defense. If he can play and play to his expectation, to the expectations this team has, all of a sudden that's a massive improvement just with his presence. I agree with you. So you have said that, potentially bringing in an edge player. Are you fine with the linebacker room as it is?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I could see them bringing in another linebacker, particularly.
But again, if you put that list up again, you got 2, 4, 6. You got like you're 4 deep because you're really only playing with 2 most of the time.
Right.
So you're 4 deep. You got 4 teams. What do you need more for?
Yeah, I'm skeptical of TJ Edwards.
But I don't think I think he's a given. He's here.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you.
Mm-hmm,
I already said why. I think they made a mistake when they extended him.
Right.
And the guy's a good player. He just can't do what they want these guys to do.
Yeah, that's the problem. Age and injuries catch up with players.
But he couldn't run when he came out.
That's the other thing, right?
So he's a smart player.
Super smart.
He's a very instinctive player. He's a great guy. Plays. If you ask him to play zone, the underneath zones, he can do that really well. But when you asking him to get locked up in man, he can't do it.
Right. The other thing that has to be said, because we're talking about guys like TJ Edwards and Sanborn, that they don't have that speed that Dennis Allen wants, but they have another ingredient besides being smart players. Their passion for the game jumps off.
No question. No question.
That's been a big emphasis for this team during the player acquisition period of 2026.
Football character. All these guys got strong football character.
Yeah, it's exciting from that standpoint, no doubt about it. All right, people are starting to ask about the schedule that's going to come out on Thursday. You and I talked about it a little before the show. Are you expecting that the Bears will open the season against Seattle at Seattle?
I mean, it sounds like it. Who knows? I hope they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, I'd rather open at home.
Yeah.
But put it this way. It could be if you go out there and you win, it's a tone setter.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to 2024, I think it was. The Kansas City's coming off a Super Bowl win, and they open up Thursday Night Football against Detroit in Kansas City. Detroit kicks their ass, and Detroit goes on and has a really good year.
Yep.
So, it could be a tone setter.
Mm-hmm.
And what'll be interesting, what is a little bit of advantage is, okay, you're looking at, okay, what's Dennis Allen going to do? And you're looking at him, what he did last year with those players from last year who aren't on the team anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, and damn well they're not going to do anything but play vanilla-based defense in the preseason.
Yeah.
So it from that standpoint, a little bit of a schematic advantage for the Bears, but you still got to go into a tough place and play on the road when and it's a hard place to play to begin with. It's even going to be harder being it's the home opener. I hope they don't have that game. I'm like in college football. Give me the Little Sisters of the Poor in that opening week.
Who is that in this? Knowing I should have built the graphic of who the teams are that they face this
Green
year.
Bay?
Would you like to see them face Green Bay in week one? Because Schefter
No.
announced the Sunday night game, and it was a divisional game. I forgot who the two teams were, but there's a possibility they may go
Oh, the
with
Sunday night
divisional.
game is the Giants and the Cowboys.
Right. So it could be an NFC North opponent for week one for the Bears. Would you like to see that early in the season?
Not really. I
Yeah,
don't
me
even
neither.
know. Like I wouldn't mind playing like the Jets.
That would be nice. Are they on the road this year? Did they go
I,
to?
I, I don't know if they're
Okay.
playing they're playing the AFC East. I don't know if it's on the road or home. I wouldn't mind Miami.
Gotcha. Well, I'll tell you, whoever they play, I think this team is going to be ready. I think this team in 2026 is going to be even coached even better than what we saw in 2025, and we were all impressed.
Again, you listen to the coaches when they talk during the rookie thing,
Mhm.
and saying the difference. We've only been out on the field 1 week, but it's already so much different than it was a year ago.
Yeah.
Because a year ago, we're trying to teach them what they're supposed to be doing just to line up,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they're way past that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now
indeed.
you're getting into, they're like 2 months ahead of last year.
Right. I thought Press Taylor was impressive in his first
Yeah,
press
he
conference
was.
as the offensive coordinator.
Well, he's been an OC before. He was an OC down in Jacksonville, so it's not like he did. He was fully prepared,
Mhm.
and he's a smart guy, and he's well spoken.
And he talked about the fact that because he started off in the business as a quality control
Quality
coach,
control guy, yeah.
he has accumulated millions of offensive plays, and he has them all very well organized. He's got like 2 terabytes of digital stuff. And anybody knows anything about computers, 2 terabytes is like NASA's storage space. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
pretty good
he
stuff.
said like the video people hate seeing me.
Yeah, I heard that. What do you think about J8K3? Blah, 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 blah. Says, what do you think about Loving making this roster? The interior defensive line is still suspect,
Practice
especially in the
squad.
run game. Practice guy? That's what I thought too. Yeah.
He's they gave him some money, so that's going to guarantee him on the practice squad. And he plays hard. He's got 30-inch arms. I can't get over that. I mean, you're going to have him beat out Vandenberg? It ain't happening.
No way. No way. It seems like, have you been getting a sense that arm length isn't as highly regarded as it was years
Not
ago?
not inside. But, like, I think Vandenberg's like 32 and a quarter or something, which inside is okay. But this guy's like 30 and a quarter, meaning Loving.
That's really short.
Now he's strong. He's 33 reps. He runs, ran 4.8 something. And you watch him play, he plays hard. You aren't knocking him back because he is stout. And he's not tall. He's only 6'1" and change. But, know what he's like? He's like, but he's got longer or shorter arms. He's not as big, but he's like Billings. But Billings wasn't as big as he is now when he came out.
Right.
But I mean, he's that kind of guy, but he's got real short arms. But his tape is impressive. In fact, what's funny is that he was probably the best defensive tackle at Wake Forest. They had another guy there, 3 technique, who was a senior this year, who went into the portal. Everybody wanted because he's athletic as hell, but he don't make any plays. Texas Tech gave him a shitload of money. And but you watch the tape and you go, what's everybody, the athleticism you see, but this guy was the guy, Loving is the guy who's making all the plays.
Yeah, indeed. Greg, I had a question for you. I want to make sure I ask it before we sign off here. When you joined the Chicago Bears organization, Dick Duran was the head coach, and he had his own defensive philosophy. And then Lovey was hired in your second year with the team. Is that correct?
No, we played
Third?
3 years. We played 3 years with Dick.
Oh,
01,
wow.
02, 03.
Okay.
And
So,
Greg Blotch was the D coordinator.
right.
So
Great
really,
guy.
Greg Blotch's scheme really more so than Dick's.
Okay. So what I wanted to ask, so Lovey comes in. How quickly were you and your staff able to fill the defensive part of the roster to Lovey's liking? Did it take 1 year, which is what, 3 years? So even this, you know, it's going to take Ryan Poe some time to give.
The third year we got to the Super Bowl, but we got all the pieces. It took us 3 years to get all the pieces, but we you know, right away. We've talked about this before. We had to like completely redo the defensive line. And the only guy, we kept two guys, Alex Brown and one of the defensive tackles was a very athletic guy. Then everybody else we just got rid of. They couldn't play within the scheme.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so I you know, I'm a little bit worried that the defense is still 2 or 3 players away, you know, really good, high-quality players away, and that we won't get those players until 2027. But we'll see.
You know, maybe, yeah, but look what they did last year playing with smoke and mirrors.
Ah.
Okay,
Well,
so you got to hope that they create turnovers like they did. But not only that, what's going to help the defense is the offense is going to be that much better. Forget it's year 2 with the offense.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, it was like a rookie redo for Caleb. And guys who were by the end of the year were big playmakers, but it took them a while to get going, meaning Loveland and Burton and stuff. Manungai, all these guys are playing. Now, there's one thing I want to bring up because there's people that are saying Logan Jones is a lock to be the starter. And I'm going, man, you don't listen to the coach very much if you're going to say that.
Yeah.
The second most important guy in the offense is the center after Caleb. You know, and if you listen to Ben, because he conducts the offensive line. You know, he is the guy who runs the offensive line. And where physically Jones could come in and play. That's not a problem. It's up here. Can he do what, as a rookie, what you're going to ask a guy who's been playing 9-10 years, started 120 regular season games and like 5 playoff games, and played at a good level, was in the Super Bowl last year. Not only were they in the Super Bowl last year, he had 2 freaking rookies on the left side of him.
Yeah.
You know, people are underscoring how good a player this guy is.
Yeah. Well, the one thing, though, is that Jones is being praised for his smarts. You know, Iowa has smart offensive linemen.
Always have. And the head coach, Kirk Ferenz, is a former offensive line coach. You know, all those guys, they're a lot of them are Iowa kids. Big farm kids, smart kids. Football's important. They're strong. They're tough. Like I say, from a physical standpoint, yeah, he can line up and play. But from a mental standpoint, he could make mistakes that get you a sack, cause you know, a turnover. It's being able to come up to the line of scrimmage, and you know, as soon as you walk up, you know, the center's reading the defense just like the quarterback is.
Yeah.
He comes up and he's standing, and he's got to call the protections, and he's got to change the protections, and so you're going to throw that on a rookie?
Yeah, that's tough. And Bradbury's experience in the division also, because he played 3-4 seasons with the Vikings.
Yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, but well, the last time he played was 24, 25 with the Patriots. Yeah,
could help a little.
There's so much turnover with each. I mean, how much from 24 to 26? What's the turnover? Like Green Bay's entire
They don't have
defensive line is
clout
pretty
anymore.
much different than what it was in 24.
Very true. Very true. Got an interesting question here regarding your past with Jerry Angelo. Did Greg ever have a heated debate with Angelo about a prospect that the Bears ended up passing on and that they later regretted? Give us some
I
insight.
told the story I wrote about James Starks.
Oh, yeah. Tell it again. That's a good
No,
one.
I just said we had James Starks drafted,
Yeah.
and I had him on the phone.
Hmm.
And then somehow, when I'm in my office calling him on the phone, and I don't know everything that went on in the room, they switched to that quarterback. And, the agent was pissed. Stein was real pissed because Stein had been talking to the agent and I'm talking to the player. And because it's like, you don't do that shit.
Yeah, right.
And so then we promised the agent that if he's still there the next round, we're going to take him.
Mm-hmm.
But he got picked like 4 picks later by Green Bay and played pretty damn good football up in Green Bay. So that was, and I'm not going to say that was an argument with what I know grade wise, the quarterback had a better grade.
Yeah, yeah.
But, we didn't even think about taking a quarterback. It was like one of those things, mistake on our part, probably shouldn't have had that kind of grade on him. But when we're going to take one and you just kind of left it alone,
Mm-hmm.
because I remember that day going into the draft, I sat that morning in my office before the draft started watching James Starks tape with Lovey to get Lovey on board.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting.
And to make sure he was on board because he was very similar in style to Matt Forte.
Yeah, that's a good comp. Absolutely.
Yeah,
so,
they're same size. Matt was obviously a little faster, but they could block. They were tough, catch the ball well. So, I mean, there's a lot going on, and that just that whole thing kind of pissed me off, but it was what it was. But
shit happens, right?
Yep.
Gotta address this. I keep hearing rumors that the Detroit Lions are going to be so bad this year that they couldn't even win a United Football League game. Have you been hearing that too? I'm busting balls here because we had a Lions fan in the chat room.
No, I mean, the Lions got a good football team. They've basically done over their coaching staff like 2 years in a row.
Yeah. And I don't think they're gonna be able to hide the fact that Dan Campbell is not as good a coach as we've been giving him credit for.
Well, he's a good leader. He's a good motivator.
Exactly. But X's and O's?
No, that's not that. I mean, he had to take over the offense. He hires a guy to be his offensive coordinator, and he doesn't fire him during the year, but he demotes him, and he takes over the play calling. They didn't play as good. They lost guys in free agency again. They picked up some. I think, Goff's starting to get a little older. He's accurate as hell. You give him time and he'll pick you apart.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know if you hit him in the mouth, it's all over.
Indeed.
So that's where the pass rush comes in. I don't think their line is as good as it has been in the past.
That's a big issue.
And that means, Goff's not the most mobile guy. You got to protect his ass.
Mm-hmm.
So, they could be, Minnesota, Green Bay and Chicago, I think are, the two best. Minnesota and Detroit. I mean, who's going to play quarterback for Minnesota? I don't know.
Do you think that the rookie, not the rookie, the second-year guy, J.J. McCarthy.
Well, he's third year now. He was drafted the same year as Caleb. But he was hurt. He's been hurt more and he's been healthy.
That's right.
And then they bring in the guy, Arizona's guy, who, to me, that was a mistake. I don't think he loves money. I don't think he loves football.
Yeah,
But
there's a
know,
lot of talk about that.
Yeah, better baseball player, and he might be a football player. He's
You should
athletic.
go back to baseball. Yeah, I'll tell you. I was not a fan of J.J. McCarthy coming out of Michigan just because they kept saying he ran a pro-style offense. Not when you're throwing 9-10 passes a game. That's not a pro-style offense.
Well, they were throwing more than that. Now, come on.
But there were some games where he threw 9 passes.
Well, I'd have to go back and look. I mean, no, I like JJ. I like his mental makeup. But I mean, he was never going to be in the. When you have the first pick, he wasn't going to be in the equation.
Yeah.
There was one guy in the equation.
And that is?
Caleb.
Exactly. All right, I think we're going to pull the plug. We are at 100 minutes already, so it's a good time to pull it. Greg, any thoughts? You and I might do a show on Friday to talk about the new schedule, which is released officially on Thursday. So be watching for that, people. Any other thoughts you want to share before we sign off?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, well, thank you.
Good discussion today. You're trying to rattle me.
I know. Did you notice that?
I know what you're trying to do.
Trying to create that viral moment, But I can't rattle you. I can't rattle you. That's for sure. I rattled some people in the chat saying, "Aldo, you're a fucking idiot." But you didn't fall for it. Anyway, it's always great talking 90 minutes. You're also doing a show with Swifty this week on Friday, so you're going to be
on Friday. Swifty and I can rework a time. You and I can rework a time if we do it Friday.
Absolutely.
So we'll see how we're going to do that and go from there. Like I say, we might know tomorrow or Wednesday if they're playing that opening Thursday night game. And if they're playing a game overseas, we're going to know that by Wednesday, because all the overseas games are going to be announced on Wednesday, supposedly.
Yeah. I got a feeling they're not going to play overseas. I don't know why I got that feeling, but we shall find out.
What is there, 10 games, including Mexico? So that's like 20 teams out of 32. And they didn't play last year. So,
and the Bears have marketing rights for Spain, so it's likely if they are going to play
a game in Spain.
Right. So if they are going to play overseas, it should be that one. Let's see.
And they don't have Germany. Somebody else does. There's 2 teams that have Spain. One is the Bears. But I know they don't have Germany. And where's the game this year in Germany? Is it Munich?
Yeah, Munich.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's cool. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us live. You folks in the chat, share the show with others. You know what to do. I don't have to go through all that. We'll see you all here later this week or early next week. Take care, everybody.
See you later.